Welcome back, guys. Welcome back in my create CRM ticket system from scratch using MERN stack. And today we are going to work on integrating our backend REST API and a front-end application to make our login logout function working. And we are going to store the user data to manage the state using Redux Toolkit. Before we jump into the code, let me show you what we're going to do in the graph here. This is the workflow that we are going to work today. So React.js user authentication route with React router, JSON Web Token, and Redux Toolkit. So basically we'll be submitting login form, and from the server, if the login is valid, we will receive the SS and refresh JSON Web Tokens. If the login detail is not valid, we will receive the invalid message, which will be shown in the login form. And once we receive the access and refresh JSON Web Token, we will store them in the sessionStorage and localStorage. I'll explain you while we're coding why we are storing separately in different location of the browser. So once they are stored in the browser memory, then we will invoke the get user action, and we will check if the token we have stored in our local session storage is valid or not. If we have a valid token, we will receive the user data, and we will update the state with the user data. And if there is some problem or the token is invalid, so we will simply forward back to the login form now. And then once that's done, we will redirect to the dashboard page. Hey, if you're here for the first time, my name is Prem Acharya from Dented Code. I create tutorial related to full stack web development. And if you are interested in full stack web development, please subscribe the channel and turn on all the notifications so that you receive all of my tutorials. With that saying, let's jump into the computer and do some coding. After recording of 1 hour, I realized that I have forgotten to record the main screen, so I have to do all over again. Right, let's do it again. I have opened the content app. I'm going to run that one now. Now the application is running. The app is running here now. So let me open the inspect. So the first thing we need to do is go to the application here. And if you're not sure where the application is coming from, we can always check that, where the component is loading from. So since this is the root URL of the application, you can go to the app.json file, which is the entry file. And if you see path.slash, that's the root of the URL. And it's loading entry page. Let's open the entry page. Okay, we don't need app. So this is where everything is happening. We are loading our login form there, and we passing props, and then we handling all the state locally in this page. But since we are going to use Redux, we don't need to handle everything from the parent component, because this is the parent component. But actually login component is the login form here, this one. So we are going to do all the tasks here. So before doing that, since we are going to manage with the state, let's create the login reducer, and we have to create few actions for that. So let's do that. Since we are following the docs pattern as per the React Toolkit suggestion, we will open the slicer. We have to create the reducer slicer, and it's better to put together with the feature. So in our case, it's login. So I'm going to put inside the login component, create a new file called loginslice.js. So if you are following along, you might have seen in the previous tutorial we did in the ticket list page, we had that ticket slice. We did all these tasks. So we are going to do exactly the same. So I'm just going to type anyway, so that if you are following along, it would be good for you. So if possible, I recommend you to do typing with me so that you build up your muscle memory. Okay, the first thing we need to import is the create slicer from Redux Toolkit. Create slice, and let's create a variable for this function. So say let's define const. This is going to be login slice equals to, we have to create the reducer with the create slice. It's a function that takes use object. So there are a lot of property you can provide, but 3 of them are important. One of them is name, so we're going to call it login, and we need to provide the initial state. So maybe let's define the initial state above. So it's an object, so we will have each loading property or variable. So that's going to be false at the beginning, and we will have is auth, that's going to be false as well. And also we will have error in case if there is an error while logging, so that we can use it to display that error in our component. So that's the initial state we providing here, and actually we need to create the reducers. So reducers takes the list of objects. So inside there we provide the function. So the function, let's say when we are logging, there are three cases that likely to happen. Either the login is pending, or login is success, or login is fail. Let's create the function login, let's say pending, and it takes state and action. So we'll talk about that more later. And here now we can update the value, which value we need to update. So in our case, when the state of the application is login is pending, so let's say is loading is true. So since we are not using state and the action, okay, sorry, state, we have to say state dot is loading equals to true. So we are not using action here, so we can just remove the action. Okay, now let's copy that and say loading the login pending. So success now. We don't need this comma here, sorry about that. And then when the logging is success, that means is loading is not true anymore, so to false. And we will have probably is auth already true because we are already logged in, right? And in case if there was an error in previous attempt, now we can reset the value of error to empty again, empty string. So no comma here, guys. This is just the assignment. Okay, so we have to basically access the property of state with the state dot, like how you access the property of the object. Don't need that. Okay, that's done. And let's make copy of this one for when login is failed. So in our case, we will have a data coming, the actual error. So basically the second parameter is action. So the action will have a payload inside, so we can destructure here, and we can now pass that payload to our error. And we don't need this line of the code. And of course the is loading is pending is false. So that's all we need to do. So when we use create slice book from the Redux toolkit, those reducer will be converted as a action creator. So we can basically export them. So now the login slice will have two things. Basically the create slice will spit out two things that we can destructure. That would be reducer, not the reducer, singular, and the actions. That's from the variable we have created for this function. And now we can export default the reducer, and we have few actions. Inside the action, all this reducer will be turned into the action creator, which we can export them as well. So we do inline export, and we can destructure them, which is coming from actions now. So the actions are login pending, the three of them, login success and the login fail, and save the file. That's all you need to do in this file. So now we can import these action creators to trigger our state. So if you see in our state, we only have a ticket. We haven't got this login state in our global state. So in order for us to add this reducer in our state, we need to go to our store file, and here we need to import our reducer we just created. So reducer slicer we just created. So that's inside the component. We have to go to component / login slice, login component, login slice. Let's call it as a login slice. And now if you see here, the name of the ticket slice here, ticket reducer sounds better. So if you see ticket reducer, we can store as a ticket. We can do same thing down here. We need to provide this login reducer right now here, just inside the reducers. So if you just provide like this only, we will have a whole login reducer here, but we don't want that. We just want to be specific and the short name. So let's do the login. And if we save that, now we should be able to see our login state as well here with the loading is auth and error object. Error object. Okay, so that's done with the store. We can close this file. And now let's go to our component now. So the first thing we need to do is we need to import onHandle sends, onSubmit sends, which we were previously passing through the parent component here in entry. So we don't need to use our like a parent to pass the props and then using the child component. So what I'm gonna do, let's put this one all the way up here, because we need to take everything from here, including handle on change and handle on submit, all this code now directly related to login component. So now we can use inside this component. I'm just gonna paste it. We might have few errors that we can fix now. Okay, so since we already get having on handle change and the on handle on submit function, we don't need to receive them as a props. And also email and pass is defined as a local state here using use state. So make sure we are importing use state from React. And okay, that's done. Okay, sorry guys, this code should not be inside the return. It should be as soon as the function is defined before the return. So return must return the component only, not any other function. So this has to be that close, has to be here somewhere. Okay, now let's see everything is okay. Okay, pass is complaining here. It's supposed to be password, not pass, because this value is coming from our local state here. Let's save this file. This file should be okay, but now in entry, since we remove few line of code here, now we need to remove other code as well, because now we don't need email here. We don't need to do call API from here. We're going to do from the login component. Let's remove that. And here to the login form, we don't have to pass this as a props anymore, because we are handling within the component. And with the reset password, we are not working on that now. So I'm just going to comment this out and save the file. It should be still working without any problem. There you go. Yeah, but it doesn't do anything yet other than spitting the console log, the email and password that we just typed. Okay, props is complaining. Let's clear that too. So in our props type, we don't need to check this too now. We can simply remove that and save the file. We still keep this one though. We'll look into that when we have to do switch from between reset password and login client. That's done. So what we're going to do is, now we are going to import this action creator from this action login slice in our login component here. So I'm gonna just bring here, let's do import. It's in the component, actually it's in the same folder, login slice, and I'm going to paste all of them here. And why we need here is that basically the best practice is we create another file here called, let's say, login action, and we do all the action stuff there. But I want to show you that you can do it here as well. And next for the next thing for the user profile, we will do that separately so that you know both way. But the better way is the next way. Okay, for here now, what we're gonna do on handle submit. So as soon as we handle submit, we can dispatch this login pending, because login pending will say our variable the is loading will make it true. So that's what we are going to do. Let's go to on handle submit. As soon as everything fine, before we calling to our API here, I'm gonna dispatch that. So to dispatch that, we need to bring something called use dispatch hook from React Redux. So let's bring that. And to use that, we have to go just below the function declaration somewhere, and let's define const dispatch equals to use dispatch as a function. And now we can dispatch our login pending using this dispatch function here. Okay, I'm gonna remove this code here. Say dispatch the login pending. We don't have any parameter, we just save like that. And if you see here and here, this is the action section. So if I try to log in, see the login pending is trigger. This is actually the action trigger, and our is loading is true. So what we can do is that we can get this value from our state and we manipulate in the form. Let's say if we have an error, we display error here. If the status is loading, we put the spinner here. Let's do that quickly. So in order for us to use that, we have to again use React Redux, and we need to use something called use selector hook. We can now, let's say, get const. I'm going to come back to this in a second. So if we do use selector function, it will give us whole state, record, login, or any state we have here, like that. But what we can do, since we don't need all state, we can simply choose what we want. So we can simply filter and return the state.login only, so that we can only return this object. And since we are only returning this object, we can destructure this value and provide here the destructure value only, property only, so that directly we can use them down below. So say is loading, and we have is auth. I don't think we're going to use this property, but I'm still getting it. Let's do error as well. Okay, so if we have a is loading, let's go next to our button here, next to the button, put that spinner. I'm going to put here, I'm going to put some space and say if we have a is loading is true, then let's load the spinner. Actually, we need to first import that from the React bootstrap library spinner, and we're also going to need alert. I'm going to put that for now. The spinner, let's go back here. The spinner takes two property. One is variant. What color do you want that spinner to be? I'm going to put primary. And the another one is animation. Animation, I want to show in border, the border animation. So we have glow and border, two options. So the difference between is glow is like popping up, the spinner, sorry, glow is like a popping up effect, and the border is like a round effect. So I'm going to put border and make sure we close that tag. And we can do same thing in the just right on the top of the form where the email address is here. What we can say is if we have an error, we can alert the error here. Alert variant, I'm going to say danger, and just put the message here. Okay, if we save that, and just for a second, let's go to our login slicer, and here let's say error is dummy error and is loading is, let's say, true. And if we save that, this should work. See, the error will pop up like this and spinner will work like that. So let's put them back again, save that, we're good to go. So let's work on actually calling the API for login. So what we are up to, okay, this part is done. So we're supposed to call the API here. So let's do that. I'm gonna run in try-catch block here. So if we have error, now we can dispatch the error saying the login failed, so that we can get the error message in our state. So I'm gonna have error.message, and in here actually we need to now call the API, which we haven't created yet. Let's write the function anyway first. So I'm gonna say const is auth equals to await. So since we are using await, make sure we put async on our parent function, and let's say user login, for example, and we need to send the email and password, because that's how we do login, right? Okay, so we have not created this one yet. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna console log the is auth. Let's see what's coming. I cannot remember what we have written from the server, so we better check before we manipulate that. And let's save that. We're gonna get error, don't worry about that now. And let's import that function which we haven't created yet. I'm gonna just do below here. So import, I'm gonna create a function in API folder, so file in API folder. Let's say API. Now currently we have ticket API, but let's create user API so that we have all the task related user related API call in this file. So let's save this file and let's go to our API folder, and here let's create a user API.js, and inside we need to create that function called user login that we imported before, sorry, that we used in our component here. Okay, so this is going to receive the form data that's like as object, and here we are going to need to use Axios. So I'm going to import the Axios here. So let's import that because we are going to make a call to API using Axios, and I'm going to return promises. So let's do return new p capital promise, and it has either resolve or reject. It's an arrow function, and inside here I'm going to run try-catch block because there are a million reasons things could go wrong when you are dealing with network. So simply reject the error here, we can also do console log in case we want to debug it and see what is causing the error. And error.message has the actual message. Okay, that part is done. So let's do the actually calling part. So the way we do is, let's go back to our API first. The login user endpoint is this one, and we need to pass email and password as an object, and it's a post method. Let's work on that. So I'm gonna just write down here first, const login URL is the one that we just copied from, and let's use Axios. So inside the try block, say const response equals to await. So make sure our function is async. And now let's go await Axio dot post method. As we saw before, we need to pass this login URL. The first parameter is the URL, and second parameter is the object, data object as a body. Since our form data is already an object, so we don't have to put inside the parenthesis the object data. And that is all we need to do to get the response. The response has so many other information related to network. Let's have a look what it comes with the console and log. I'm gonna just console log the response, and what I'm gonna do is I'm going to resolve the rest.data, because the rest.data actually holds the data that we are interested in. So now we can export this function direct from the line. Okay, this been, make sure the user login is the same name, user login. Okay, and it's been called here and is auth. Okay, let's fire up our form and then see what happens. So I'm interested in console first. Don't worry about the warning message, we will work on that. So I'm just gonna send the wrong login information. So okay, the pending, because okay, this is the thing I was talking about. If you go to our API here, I am console logging everything coming from the response that holds configuration, data, header, rest, status code, and status text. So we are interested in the data only. So that's what we are returning. So data is saying that invalid message, email or password with status error. So we need to fix, we need to show that message here, right? Let's work on that. So if you see status has error, now we can access to this property to check in our login component. Just close the sidebar, and here let's do if is auth dot, now we have that data dot status equals to error. That means we have an error, right? So inside here we need to dispatch the login fail with this message, which is auth dot message. And now if we go to our Redux state here, okay, this is the action firing point and this is the actually state updating. Okay, so let's write the invalid login detail. As you can see, login is pending is fired up and is loading is true. We seems like not going any further. So if state, hang on, I want to console log actually what is how is coming. That is yeah, I definitely did wrong spelling. You guys would have seen already, that's why. Okay, now if we try in our Redux dev tool, you should see the 3 different action is fired, at least 2 different action is fired. See, the first state says that is loading is true, everything else is same as initial state, and another action is fired, login fail. Now that has is loading false and the error message. If I do click on the login, you can see like a quick flash of the spinner. Did you see that? And it's firing up all the action, and we are getting the actual error message. Now let's say we have the correct login information, which is this email and the greatest password. Let's do that. Login is pending. That means we are okay. Yeah, of course, because in only case of error we are returning things, but we are not returning any success. We are not dispatching any success function here. So let's return this one from here only, so that we don't execute another line. And let's do dispatch instead of fail. Now let's say login success. I think that's the one. Yeah, login success. Here we don't need to pass anything because we are not expecting anything in our login slice here with the login success. So let's check that with the correct email and password. Let's log in. See, there is a login pending. with the login pending, there is like initial state. But if login is success, now the is-auth is true, the is-loading is false. Okay, now we need to do is that we need to make sure that we receive the JSON web tokens. Let's make sure that go to our API call again here. So already have console. Let's check it quickly now. Console. There you go. Yes, we do have a access token and the refresh token. The status is success and the message there. So what we can do here, instead of doing console here, just after the resolving, let's do this here. Let's store them in the session storage and local storage. The session storage for temporary region, local storage for long-term region. So if you store anything on your session storage, that token cannot be accessed by any other browser or tab. Whenever you close the browser, the session will be removed as well. But the local storage will persist the data even though you close the browser. I'm going to show you in a second. So let's do that. So we do have a message here. Just to check that, I'm going to say if status rest rest.data that one here. I want actually all of that. I'm lazy. Okay, equals to success. Then we can do session storage dot. We have to say set item, and we need to pass the key value. That's going to be SS token, so JWT. That's whatever you can define. I'm going to say JSON SS. SS JWT. That's what it's coming. So I'm just going to put as it is, and the value going to be inside the rest dot data dot the access JWT. That's the way you store in session storage. And to store in local storage, just simply call local storage dot set item is similar to the one at the above. And here, what you want to do is that you want to probably define your website name first or something unique to your website. In my case, I'm going to say CRM site, and the value I'm going to put the refresh token as a object like a key and value pair, in case in the future you need to store something else inside that object. So to do that, we cannot just pass object like that straight away. We have to store always string. So to do that, we can do json.stringify, and inside there now we can provide the object. Now I can say refresh JSON web token and pass the JSON web token. So that would be there. So that would be like a rest.data.refresh JWT, like this one. When we save it, and let me show you what happens. To see those values, you need to go to application, and here we have a local storage and session storage. Let's see if there is anything. We need to remove that so that you don't get any confused. And here, okay, in local storage empty, session storage empty. This is the key we have defined here, and this is the place you can see the value. So let's try to log in with the invalid login credential. You don't see anything here in both local and session storage, but let's say we log in with the valid email and password. There you go. See that we are in the session storage. We are storing the SS JSON web token, the token itself. But in the local storage, we are using key as a CRM site, and inside the value, actually we storing the JSON object with the key is refresh JWT, and the token is refresh token is the value here. So that's the part we are talking about here. So I wanted to show you the difference now. So let's see, we have a session storage here, right? So let's say I copy this URL and open a new window, and I visit the website. Now go to the application again and check your session storage. There you go. You don't have session storage, but you do have local storage. That's the one different. Let's close that. That's done. So that part is done. So what we have to do is now we have to redirect to the dashboard and then invoke the user action or vice versa. So what I'm gonna do is, okay, let's remove all this thing from console. We don't need that. We don't need that. Save that. And we need to, as long as we are logged in successfully, we need to redirect to our dashboard page, which is this page. So let's work on that. So to do that, we need to call a hook from the React router DOM. Okay, so let's import the use history hook. Okay, so similarly how we're using the use dispatch, let's do const use history function. Now we can use this define function to redirect our application to the dashboard when we have dispatch login success. So simply just do history.push. Here you can provide the path where you want to go. So that's gonna be dashboard, set that, and let's do the testing one more time. Okay, if I try to just log in with the wrong credential, it gives us the message and doesn't go anywhere. Let's do with the correct credential, so it should redirect us to the dashboard page. There you go, we don't need that. Okay, that's working perfect. So the thing now we need to do is that as soon as we are in the dashboard page, we need to make sure that we get the data for the dashboard, and we also need to get the user profile and store in the Redux store if the user profile already doesn't exist. Okay, let's work on that. Before doing that, we've been coding for a while. I want to just commit this change so that if we mess it up anything, we don't have to go back all the way and do all this stuff. So I'm gonna say quickly here, okay, right. So we are not pushing yet, we will push all together later. So the next task we need to do is get the user update in the state, where we only have now the ticket and login state. Let's get the user state as well. So we're going to do that in our, let me close everything first, in our dashboard, probably in the folder of the dashboard component. Where is component? Okay, go to the page. Here's the dashboard. I'm going to create a, again, remember that we need to create the slice reducer, and then we can use the dispatch to dispatch its function. And this time we are going to create the better way. We are going to create the user slicer reducer and user action. Okay, so first I'm going to say user slice.js, and here we need to again import the create slice from the Redux Toolkit. The Redux Toolkit, yeah, slice, and let's create a function called user slice, yeah, and we need to create the user slice with the create slice. Again, this one will take 3 property, one being name, I'm going to say user, and the second one is the initial state. So let's define that. In the top, it's always better practice to define the initial state instead of defining down here only. Okay, so what we have here is we have user. Let's say it's an object and is loading, of course, false. And also if we have any error getting user there, we put the message here. Okay, and the third property we need for our create slice is the reducers. So they are the list of the function. So again, we will put get user pending, get user success, get user fail. Let's do get user, I'm gonna copy that. Pending is a function, it takes state, and an error function. We are not receiving any action payload, so we don't need to provide that here because we are only doing state dot is loading equals to true. That's all we need. And I'm gonna just put the comma here, and I'm gonna copy this whole thing, and instead of pending I'm gonna say success. So in that case we will have state dot loading false in this stage, and we will have state dot user, we will have definitely user. That's we're going to get from our action here. So basically action have a payload inside, so let's destructure it and use that straight away. So the state.user equals to payload, and we will not have any error, so we need to make sure the error is set to empty in case there was an error in previous attempt. I think, yeah, loading user and thing, that's all we need here. And let's create the one for get user fail use case. So we need payload, we will have an error message here, and the is loading is false. Yeah, we don't have user, remove that, and we have a error, so just pass the error here, like a payload here. And when you save that, that's probably it for the creating the reducers. Let's export this reducers and action creators. As I already explained that create slice will turn this reducer into the action creators. So I'm gonna do const reducer and actions from this, and let's do export default the reducer not reducer, and also let's export const the action creator from actions. Okay, so here we will have all of this one: get user pending, get user success, get user fail. The way I'm doing here, destructuring and passing here, just to show you so that you don't get confused. So if you don't want to do this one, you don't have to do. You can access the action property and reducer property from the user slice straight away, like how you access the property in the object, like this. So just do whichever suits you or whichever you feel comfortable. I'm just showing you the both way. Okay. All right, that's all done with the. I'm gonna copy this one with the slice, what you call user slicer. Now let's copy, save that, and let's now create the user action here, user action.js. That's from at const import from the same directory with the user slice. Okay. And okay, I'm gonna save this file. One thing we need to do before we start working on this one. See, if in our state we don't have user yet, so we need to load this reducer into our root reducer in our store. Sorry. So let's import that, which is inside way in the page. I think yeah. Slash pages slash dashboard here, and the user slice. Let's call it user reducer. And let's store in our Redux store as a user, so that we can see here as a user. Do so. Okay, just I realized that the spelling is wrong. Maybe let's fix it since we know that. Make sure the file path is correct. Let me do it again. It's not happy dashboard as user slice. Save that. Okay, now fine. Okay. That's done. Now it will show in our state. It's still compiling. Let me restart the application. Okay, we have an error here saying that the dashboard.page cannot be found in our CRM SRC folder. App.js using. Let's go to our app.js, and now we need to update this one to the correct file path, which we just changed the name, and now everything should work. I don't think anywhere else we have used that file path. Okay, yeah, let me console that and see. Okay, yeah, that's pretty much working all fine. So let's go back to our Redux. Now you should see in our state the user as well, with the user is loading an error. So we have created that file user slicer and import that in our store and put as a user object in our store. So we can close the store. We go to we don't need app as well, so we need is user slice, user action, and the which one? Go to the login page maybe first. Login. Where's the login component? Okay, login component. In here when we dispatch login success, let's dispatch one of the action that gets the user from the user action. So let's create the action here. So const get user profile. We are not receiving anything, but this is going to be the high order component. So it's a high order component. That first parameter takes the parameter if there is any. If does not have, the second function takes the dispatch as a parameter, and then this is the arrow function. So the high order function is the function that takes the function and also returns the function as well. And I'm gonna run this one in try catch. So again, if we have any issue, we dispatch the error here with the get user fail error.message, and here we're going to call the API, and before calling the API we're going to dispatch the get user pending. We don't need to pass anything, and after calling API, if everything is fine, we will call the get status. let me just save that and call this function inside our login component here. It's inside the pages / dashboard / the user action. Here we have get user profile. Now we can use dispatch like how we dispatching other function here. After this dispatch login is successful, we can also dispatch the get user profile like so. So what happens when we dispatch get user profile, it will invoke the function in action. I think we have an export that. Let's go and export that first. Okay, yeah, we will this will create this function called the function, and whatever we pass inside the first parameter here, whatever we pass here, this parameter will be coming in this parenthesis, and the dispatch itself will come as a higher order function here, not component guys, higher order function. And now using that dispatch, we can dispatch all the action creators. And in our case, we already done this too. Let me show you, and then let me show you how it works here. So if you see in our action firing zone and the state here, state won't change anything, but just check here. So we need to have a correct login information in order to activate that, trigger that action. See here, we have a login pending, login user success, and then we have a login user pending. That means we are triggering our action, this action. So since this action is triggered, now we can call the API to get the user information. So to do that, let's go to our API endpoint and see what the endpoint we need. Okay, on the API user backend API here. So we need to call this URL endpoint with get method, and we also need to pass the authorization access JSON web token to get the user profile. Okay, let's do that. Let's go to our API, user API. Here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna const user profile URL equals to. See guys, we are keep repeating the same thing. So maybe it's a good idea. We can just gonna say for now const root URL equals to until here. Take that out and put there. And what we can do is simply concatenate them. Same thing with this, and concatenate them, and now we can use that. So what we do is I'm going to copy this user login hold function and rename it to fetch user, and we are not receiving any parameter. We will return the promise, and we need to use xio get method now, and the URL is now URL user profile URL, and we don't have any data, but we have authorization header to send. The way you send that is open the parenthesis and write headers, and inside the header as an object we need to write authorization, and here pass the session token. So what we can do is get the token first. Let's get the token that we have in our session storage. Remember, we have done before, store before we did set item. Now we need to do get item and just pass the key that we have used to store it. That was access JWT. Let me quickly show you. Application storage, this key we need to provide. Okay, let's go back Redux, and okay, if we don't have, you know what we can do, just in case, let's say if the token doesn't exist, then we just simply reject, right? We can do that, say for now. And how we receiving here first? In error, we are not receiving error.message, so we're gonna receive error as a message string. So we just send the string straight away, like so here. Okay, that is done. So in our case, before resolving, let's do console.log the response, and inside now we should be able to see our user data. Let's see how the user data is coming. Let's go back to our input form, login form, okay, when I log in our state in user, is there anything? Not yet, but what about in our console? Okay, yeah, we have logged in, we have the state, but where is our user data? That's not right. Let's debug it together. Instead of actually rejecting, okay, get item access token. Oh, sorry, let's go more further. So we don't need this stuff first. Let's delete that, and I'm gonna say error.message here, and then I want to see what happened. As you can see, we are stuck in get user pending. We are not getting user. So let's go to our action. Oh yeah, because we have not called the bloody API function here. Let's paste the user. Let's import this API calling function in our user action, and here we need to import that. Let me close the sidebar. Import, that's from the API. I think, yeah, we need to go couple folder up, API/user API. That is the function name here, fetch user. Now we need to call the fetch user here. So I'm gonna say const user equals to await. Fetch user, we don't need to pass any parameter, but make sure when you use await, we make our parent function async, and the user on us now to console log. We have a user here. If we do, let's save that and quickly run one more time. I have the correct login here. What's that? Okay, in our state maybe we don't have anything because we haven't done. Okay, we still got the user pending. What about in console? Okay, yeah, that's what I wanted to know, how the data is coming. So inside the data, what we have is, okay, inside the data we have user, so we need to go one further step down. So the user will have another user. Actually, let's do response and let's invoke the get success. Let's dispatch that one here. We haven't dispatched, that's why. Oh, now I know. So the reason we are stuck in our where's the Redux, in our get user pending is that we have not dispatched our get user success. So let's do that, dispatch get user success, and here we need to pass the user object. To pass the user object, we have user inside the user. So instead of passing this one as a user, I'm going to say result, and the user is inside the result. So dot user. So we need to do this here in case if there is no user. So result dot, actually we can do tenor here. So if result dot user and result dot user dot underscore id, then dispatch this function successfully. Actually, let me put in if statement. So dispatch there, we return from here only. Just simply return it. Otherwise, if that's not the case, then we can dispatch again get fail with the message saying that user is not found. So now everything seems working to me. I mean, should be working. So logout, we have a user data. Let me see in the state if we manage to populate in the user. Yes, inside the user we have a user. Inside the user we got all the user information. So we don't need the refresh token and the password, so that we will fix later in the future, but we got the user. So I think you know what, since we are here, we only want the name, email and ID. Let's return that only. We don't need that many stuff. So where are we returning that from? I'm going to our API endpoint where we are returning the user data from get user profile. Here, instead of responding all user data, I'm gonna get okay, I'm gonna do one thing. Inside there, user dot underscore id, user profile dot name, user profile dot email, I guess. So now we need to provide value as well. Or I can actually don't have to do this. We can destructure them here, like const underscore id, name and email from user profile, and save that. And now we should only have these three value. Okay, it's saying something is okay. We don't need to define user id here because we have user id already there. Okay, now let's call our application and do. If I hit enter, let's go to user state user. Inside the user now we only have, oh, we still got Okay, now we need to go user pending. Okay, it's not still working. Let me see in my console. It did not print. Why? Why? Okay, that's not right. That's wrong. Sorry, we have the application crash in the server side. We got the ID, we got the name, we got the email correctly. Yes, let me save it, and let's put our data. Let's go back here, and I'm gonna refresh this console to, okay, now I have a correct login again. I'm gonna log in, and now inside the data we should have only email, name, and user ID. Should be same in our Redux store. There you go. Get user success as they started with user ID, username, and email. Okay, that part is done as well. I'm going to just remove few console. I'm gonna post this one as well. Okay, let's make a commit. Let's go console here. Let's see what are the things need to be removed from console. Okay, let's remove this console here. They are from the page user. We don't need that. Have that. Everything seems okay. We don't need that. Okay, I'm gonna save the file. Do one more test before we make commit to our repo. So when we go to our dashboard, when we are in dashboard, let's say if we log out and then our key is still there, our session key is still there. So we need to make sure that we remove that key. To do that, let's go to our header.component. So here, what happens when we go to the logout, when we click the logout menu, we are redirected to the client login page, but the key hasn't been deleted. So to delete that, we simply call the sessionStorage again and say remove item and pass the item that you want to delete, which is JWT. And we also have a delete API endpoint in our backend server, logout here. So let's call this API with the delete method and the authorization to delete the access and refresh token from logout. You're gonna need this one in case you are logging from the somebody else computer and you are not going to use that computer again, so you don't want to keep the login information there. So to do that, I'm gonna go to again API, user API. Yeah, I'm gonna just copy, actually no, I'm just gonna write export const user logout. I'm gonna need nothing here because I don't have to return anything as well. So just to handle the error, I'm gonna run try catch. So if there is an error, we're gonna do console.log error, and on the top here, let's go on the top and define the logout URL. Root URL plus we need user and logout only. Yeah, and let's call the Axio again in our try. I don't need to receive any return from here, so I'm gonna say await axios.delete. Just pass the URL here, and we need header though and authorization header. So just pass the sessionStorage.get item. That is, hey, you do that. Make sure you make this function async and then await. Save that. Now this one should delete the key from the server as well, like invalidate the key. Let's try to do that. So there is a key in our sessionStorage, and let's go back to dashboard. So if I log out, there you go, now it's been deleted. We are in the login page, but if I try to go to dashboard from the URL endpoint, we can still go to dashboard. That's not right, so we need to protect our router. So again, this tutorial getting super long, guys, so we will do that in the next tutorial as well. So for now, I'm just gonna, and I'm gonna say git push, so that you have code right in the repo now. Now let's see what we are planning for today. Okay, receive the profile, update the state, redirect to the dashboard page, and fetch the data for dashboard page. I think, guys, this tutorial getting pretty longer. I think we should keep that one for next tutorial. I'm gonna come up with the next tutorial fairly soon. So in the next tutorial, we'll do that along with other stuff. So let's keep this tutorial not very long. Okay, so everything else is achieved today. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you like the tutorial. If you did, then please give me a thumbs up. And if you have any question, write in the comment section, or you can hang out with me in my Discord channel. The link is in the description below. And in the next tutorial, we are going to continue this integration, and we try to finish all the integration in the next tutorial. So guys, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe the channel. Till then, code every day, be awesome and have fun. I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.